Okay, we're going to go ahead and get today started. On behalf of all of my fellow associates here at Pinnacle, I want to thank you for being here and participating in our workshop today. Our goal with these workshops is to further our advisory position with all of the business owners, just like y'all in our communities, in the places that we do business. We're a values-driven company, and for us, what that means is that as we make decisions to do things, we run it through a filter of our 7 values. And today, the 2 catalysts behind today are our values of partnership and learning. So we hope that when you leave here, you've learned something that you can take back to your business and you can apply immediately. And also that you feel like Pinnacle is a partner that can work with you to help you grow your small business and make you successful. I'm excited to introduce you to Kevin Jennings today. He's a business coach and a brand strategist. He partners with entrepreneurs just like y'all to further their vision and turn it into value and help take their passion and make it profitable. He's right now the CEO of Junction 32. That's a brand marketing and consultancy company. We're in really good company with people that Kevin has worked with because he's worked with names like Tony Robbins and Dave Ramsey and a little lady who's been pretty successful named Oprah Winfrey. He is also the husband to Leah and daddy to Arden. So Kevin is a good friend of mine, and I'm excited to introduce him to you today. So Kevin, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Well, everybody, thanks for letting me hang out with you guys today. Super excited about the opportunity to kind of talk to you about how we can accelerate your growth. One of the things that most people do not know when it comes to their marketing, and Brian, just flag me if I ever step outside of the zone of the camera. You just tell me, push me back, and I'm good. All right, awesome. But the thing that most organizations do not know is that they are wasting enormous amounts of money on marketing. Now, let me tell you why, because when I tell you, it's going to hit you deep, right? Because you're going to feel and say, you know what, this makes complete sense to me, that this is a challenge for us. And here's the reason. Year after year, dollar after dollar, you trust your message in the hands of designers, in the hands of web developers, people who have to use their technical skills. They might be trained in it, might be experts in it, but they know a lot more about Photoshop than they do about how to create a message that will make someone listen. And so this is a great example. This website is beautiful, right? I think most people say this looks fantastic. But if I asked you what this company does, most of us have no clue. Your journey starts here. Artisan, innovative solutions. Get started. What exactly does this even mean? So when it says why start, my thoughts are why start indeed. People buy products only after the words they read make them want to buy those products. So in this talk, my goal over our short time together today is to explain why almost all of us are talking to our customers the wrong way. Now, if we keep getting this wrong, eventually we might lose out to the competition. So I'm going to show you a framework that's going to actually help you clarify your message so that customers will listen. And in that framework, we're going to make sure it actually changes the way you do your marketing and possibly how you approach your business. So I'm going to walk into this framework, but before I do that, I'm going to introduce to you how the brain works, because that's what matters. Our brains, your customers' brains, are designed to do 2 things incredibly well. 1, help them survive and thrive, and 2, help them conserve calories. Now, the surviving and thriving piece, that should come off pretty implicit, right? This idea that our brains are focused on organizing information in a way that allows us to actually make new friends, make more money, because we know those things matter in our society. Our brains are taking, you don't need that. It's discarding things you don't need, and it's focused on what helps you survive and thrive. Now, the second thing it's going to do is help you conserve calories. Now, that's how the brain's designed. When you're learning new things, the brain actually burns calories, but the brain's trying to conserve that energy. So when it consumes information that doesn't make sense, it starts to shut down, tune things out, move on, discard what it doesn't need. So what this means, if your product or service is not positioned correctly, what happens is the brain starts to tune the person out, even if they don't know it, because it doesn't make sense to them. All right, and so a great analogy for this is thinking about every time you introduce your product to someone else, it's like putting their brain on a treadmill. And the more they have to work, the harder they're running, eventually it's going to tune you right out. So the more confusing we are, the less people pay attention. Another great analogy for this is like a bowling ball. Every time you give your customer more information, think of it like you're giving them an 8-pound bowling ball. Okay? So you tell them the industry you're in, and you tell them the service you have. And let's imagine how many bowling balls can someone possibly hold before they drop them. So the first thing, my good friends met today, clubhouse events, correct? All right, and so they they help people facilitate golf tournaments. So that's one bowling ball. But they also allow you to rent television screens for movies and night out. And then third, they'll help you also do put on other live events. Is that correct? And then eventually, I can't hold more than three, so my hands start to drop. And that's before we're talking about anything else, where they're located, their pricing. Unfortunately, the brain is designed in a way that it cannot retain all that at once, right? And so that's what's happening to our sales. That's what's happening to our teams every day. The more simple we can be, the more relevant we can be, the less bowling balls in the hands of our customers. And this all comes down to something very simple. If you confuse, you'll lose. That's it. If I'm confusing people, I can be very confident that they're not able to hang tough, no matter how much value we can provide, no matter how great we are. If we confuse, we'll lose. So we have to explain how we help somebody survive and thrive, and then do it in a way that is so simple they don't have to burn a lot of calories to understand how it all works. Now, what I work with an organization as a certified guide, I get taught in this framework as an organization called StoryBrand. And what we understand now as a group is the best way to compel the human brain is through stories. Stories are a sense-making device. And here's why. The average person spends 30% of their waking hours daydreaming. Unless, some of you are daydreaming right now. You're like, what do we eat later on for dinner, lunch? You're like, I'm hungry. You're daydreaming. And that's all right. It happens. But our brains do not do that when we have a story, when we're engaged in a story. When's the last time you daydreamed during a movie you enjoyed? Right? It's hard. If someone's telling you a story about their day that captures your imagination, your brain is engaged in a way that it cannot ignore. And so the StoryBrand 7-part framework that I'm going to teach you all today helps you clarify your message so people will listen. So let's dig into that. And here's what the framework looks like. Now, before I expose it, I do want to be transparent and let you know I'm going to ruin movies for you forever. So no movie will ever be the same when this is done. So I apologize in advance, because you'll see every change coming long before the movie ends. All right? So let's walk through each element of this, because stories are very formulaic. Are you ready? You look ready. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to start with the first part of it, and it's a character. There's a character in every story that wants something. And the two big mistakes that most screenwriters and brands make is we do not clearly communicate what the person wants. Now, this is because either we don't define it clearly, right? We assume they know what they want, and we just assume that they get us already. Or, which is more common, we assume that they want so many things, and we feel compelled to tell them all the things that they want up front. So let's just go to a movie example, Bourne Identity. All right, so Jason Bourne. If I told you there's a movie about a guy named Jason Bourne, he wants to figure out who he is, but he also wants to lose 30 pounds. He also wants to get the girl. He also wants to adopt a cat, and he wants to be a basketball player one day. I've lost you. I've lost you because there's too many things that he wants. And he's like, well, maybe I don't know what thing do I want? I'm putting questions in his mind instead of connecting off of his desires. So That's too many bowling balls. Too many things for him to hold on to from the very beginning. So this takes us to story brand principle number one, and that is when you agitate a customer's desire, they enter into the story your brand is telling. We have to agitate desire. We have to say, you want this. You want your nonprofit to have a successful fundraiser, correct? Yes. Okay, perfect. That's what we're going to anchor our conversation on. Not how do I make a golf tournament easy. It's what do you want to fundraise successfully. That's why you hire clubhouse events. All right, and so this is a great opportunity for us to talk about and change the story. So in our branding, we have to define something customers want. And now it has to be generic enough where it connects with most people we're trying to serve. And that part is true, right? Everything, this isn't going to be one desire hits everybody. It's what is the most common desire amongst your people, your customers, and clearly communicate that. All right, and then from there, we can say, yeah, we won't communicate to everybody else. We'll just focus on the one desire. And everyone who comes, we'll talk to them one-on-one. But from most of our marketing, focus on one desire. Now, the next part of this framework is a problem. So the customer with a problem. Now, this happens in every story we watch. The story doesn't really start until the person we're following has a desire that they cannot get. So we know there's something they want, and then there's a big obstacle in their way that we have to identify with them. Once again, communicate the problem clearly to them. There's something in your way that I know, that you know is in the way, and we can both agree this is preventing you from achieving your goals. This is when all the great movies start. That's when all the tension starts. And so that's what we have to intentionally communicate to the customers. And this takes us to principle number two, and that is if you stop talking about your customers' problems, they stop paying attention to your brand. If you stop talking about the problem. Now, I get it. Our first gut reaction is, how fast can I talk about my solution? Here's what I do for you. I'm great. Please trust me. I'll solve all your problems. I'm a great person for you. You should hire me. We would succeed more by spending more time on the problem. Because what that does is two things. It establishes empathy. Hey, I get it. I get where you're in. Tell me more about it. And the more we listen with empathetic ears, the customer also starts to trust us. But more importantly, we now know exactly how to frame things up, our solution up in their minds against what they're trying to achieve and what's preventing them from achieving it. So imagine a movie where the hero solves the problem in the first 15 minutes of the movie. All right, so there's a bomb, and Bruce Willis shows up because he puts out all bombs. Shows up and he dismantles the bomb in 15 minutes. The movie's over. You have another 60 minutes of his life being back to normal. It's boring. It's boring. And to our customers, they do want to be engaged. They do want to be engaged because customers buy products they understand. As we said earlier, if you confuse, you'll lose. So they buy products they understand. And so for us, rushing to solutions necessarily is not very helpful. So the problem or the challenge is the most important element of the story, especially as a business. If we bypass problems, they have no need for us. So do not skip over the problem in the story or the customer will lose interest. All right, so now we have a character with a problem. And right now, by the fact we spend so much time on their problem, they might be feeling a little hopeless. They might be reminded of, you're right, that's why I haven't been able to get over my hump yet. I'm still struggling. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years in, I'm still struggling with the same problem. And for centuries, storytellers have introduced another character right at this point in time. And at Storybrand, we call this person the guide. Now, if you've ever seen Hunger Games, anybody? Okay, awesome. Have you seen Star Wars? All right, it's okay. I get it. Star Wars. Have you seen The Matrix? Have you seen Aladdin? I mean, we can go to any store you want to go to, right? Haymitch is the guide for Katniss. Obi-Wan Kenobi shows up for Luke Skywalker. Morpheus shows up for Neo. The genie shows up for Aladdin. We are very accustomed to seeing this second character show up, and they only have one role, and it's help the hero win the day. So what I want to propose to you, and this is the big shift that most brands have to make, and that is understanding that your customer is the hero in the story, not you. You are the guide. You show up in their story to help them win the day as the guide. Now, this is a pretty big deal, but this takes to a simple principle: your customer's the hero, not your brand. Your customer's the hero, not your brand. Now, when you think about it, people wake up every morning and they view themselves as the hero in their own stories. They see themselves as the people who are going out conquering to achieve their dreams. And when you try to occupy the space as hero, hey, check us out, we're the number one this in the whole world, we're the best thing. On your homepage is all about you, pictures of you, pictures of your team. No way for them to insert themselves into that story. They don't identify. They don't identify with your brand. So it's really important that we say, okay, how are we going to explore our position as the guide in their story? Now, there's a really great book. I want to recommend it up front. It's called Building a Story Brand. It unpacks this stuff at the deepest level. Building a Story Brand. It's a book you can get on Amazon or Audible, for your books. I think, yes. I've been instructed to remind all locations to mute wherever you are. So the great book is Building a Story Brand. It's a fantastic book. Sets this up really well. Written by the guy who trained me on this framework. And what you'll see quickly is that if you position yourself as the guide in the customer story, they will feel like they found what they're looking for. Now, not necessarily just your product, but the whole organization. We're talking about your brand, not just your products, right? Hey, I can count on these people. They get my pain, they get my desires, and they want to come alongside me to help me accomplish what I want, right? And so this is, it's very easy to do, but it's very easy to overlook because we work so hard on what we create to serve the market. Now, at this point in the story, we have a character who has a problem, who meets the guide, but they're still not going to buy yet. And here's why. Because for the first time in the journey, they have risk. They have a decision to make. Do I work with the guide or not? It can cost them money, it can cost them time, or even their pride. So now they're feeling, they might be excited about the possibility, but they're nervous about making a poor choice. And it's our job to mitigate that internal thing going on in their mind saying, what if I make the wrong choice? So how do we do that? We give them a plan. Everyone wants a plan. They want to know what is coming next. So what is your proven plan that you can introduce to them at this moment in time to help them understand how you will help them? So think about like crossing a raging river, all right? You say, okay, I could get across this. The current's really strong. I might get swept up. I might not. But if you see 3 gigantic stones in the water, it becomes very simple to you. I'm going to cross each three rocks, and everything will be fine. That's how I'm going to get across. So you don't just have to say there is no risk. You don't have to misrepresent what you do. You need to present a plan in which they can actually make it possible. Step 1, we're going to do this. Step 2, we're going to do this. Step 3, here's how this works, right? So a how it works principle is actually really strong for giving your character a proven plan. So this is to our next principle. Your customer needs an easy step-by-step plan to move forward, or they won't. And I think that last phrase is the big one. They just won't do it. They'll go to the person that will give them the peace of mind of knowing that there's a plan on how this is going to work. You've been here before, and you know how this works. Tell me how it works, put my mind at ease, and let's move forward. Now, as a brand, this might be as simple as download our software, go through our training, enjoy the software. So I don't want to make it complicated. I'm not trying to, but just that simple. Okay, got it. I buy it. You train me. I use it. Yes, that's it. Okay. Now, we all know that's a little bit harder in reality, learning something new, but just the fact there's a course in which I know you're going to take me on puts me at ease. All right. So now we have a character who meets a guide, who gives them a plan. And this is where most companies, I would say, especially startups, that are run by the owner operator. So that's the chef who has their own business. They don't call people to action. They think, see, I'm the best person. I told you I'm the best, and I've been nice to you. You should just want to open up your checkbook. We have to ask for the business. We have to call someone to action. So how are we going to do that? And what really happens in this moment is heroes are reluctant to take action on their own. They don't want to go it alone. They have to be forced. And we know this in our own lives. Those who are entrepreneurs and start their own businesses, we understand what made you finally say, I'm going for it. What happened in your own life that said, I'm going for this? Something happened that said, because there's no way, there's no perfect time to take the leap, right? And so a bomb goes off in a movie, and all of a sudden the hero's like, okay, I got to go fix this, right? So I think for us, we have to say, what is that thing in their world? It's going to be us. We have to say, hey, it's time. No more. You've been through it enough, right? We have to just say it to them directly. All right, and so this story this is a very true principle in life for all of us. So unless you clearly call people to take action, they won't, and they'll be comfortable sitting on the sidelines until someone else shows up and says it's go time. Now, when it comes to that, brands tend to make two critical mistakes in their marketing. Either they don't call people to action clear enough, or they have too many vague calls to action. So in that earlier example on the website, it said, why start? It said, get started, right? Well, I'm sure for all of the men in the room, if you walked up to a woman and said, hey, want to get started? I don't think that would necessarily be the way she would respond and say, of course I want to get started. Yeah, whatever that means, right? You would say, hey, can I have your telephone number? Will you call me? Want to book an appointment, right? There's very clear, I know exactly what I'm asking you to do. It is not want to get started, because that just is really uncomfortable, right? Even buy now is more clear. Oh, I'm going to buy right now. This is what you're asking me to do. That's the next step. Clarity provides peace of mind for the character, all right? And so we want to actually own that. So avoid things that are vague or unclear, highlighting if you have 4 or 5 buttons. No, we want one on the website. What do you want me to do? If you know, you don't need to have 3 options, right? You need 2, maybe, as a transitional. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, so unless we tell customers what can be won or lost, they won't come along with us. And so what we're going to do in this next stage here is we actually want to unpack success if they take action. Because another reason they take action is because there's something at stake. In every great story, the character wants to know what happens. Do I get the girl? Do I save my family, right? I mean, if you think about taking, I'm saving my daughter. What's at stake? I lose my daughter forever. Okay, I will take action. I am motivated, right? Now, this doesn't mean we have to obviously sell life or death to our clients. But what it does mean is if we don't have an accurate depiction of what is at stake, they won't believe it matters. Oh, if it doesn't matter so much, so my wife's a personal trainer and a wellness coach. So she actually does get to say life or death, right? She can say, hey, this is a big deal. I don't get to do that. No one's going to believe me if I say you're going to die if you don't update your website. But what I can say is you worked too hard. You sacrificed too much to see one more customer not work with you and your team. This might be your family-owned business. You have a legacy to protect. There are real things at stake if you don't take action, but there's also real success on the other side of that. We want to paint that picture in their minds to remind them we understand why it's important for them to take action. And so, of course, this is clear for a principle here for us. Customers want us to cast a vision of what their lives can look like if they use our products or services. They want us to do it. Because we understand that the reality is when you sign for any new service, there's a cost, right? There's time to learn it, time to maximize it. So Apple sells me a new iPhone. I don't know how to use it on day one. So the only vision I have is the one they sold me. Kevin, if you persevere through this, you can connect with your family easier with FaceTime. You can take really great photos in moments that matter. You can do business on the go with all of our apps. Like, they're selling me the future because they don't. I'm like, this is hard. I don't know how to do this. Now, obviously, you may not if you love technology, but I think that's a challenge, and it's their job to help you overcome it. All right. Now, the last thing is failure. We have to own the downside. Now, I know many of us have a lot of integrity and just don't really love the idea of selling gloom and doom and making someone feel like you're trying to trick them or use fear to make them act. So there is a reality of saying, hey, I don't want to overdo this, but you have to own it. Even if the failure is you stay where you are, you stay frustrated, you stay disappointed, you stay where you don't hit your fundraising goal this year. That's a reality. It's a real possible reality if you don't work with us. And we're not here to fearmonger, but we do want to be honest. Because when we do that and we show our customer the consequences, this actually adds to the power of the story. There's something to be gained for the hero. All right? And so that's a really big deal. And so if there are no consequences for not doing business, there is no reason to do business. If there's no consequence of not doing business, there's no reason to do business. Right? I really want to know that, hey, Kevin, if you don't work with Pinnacle, this is a reality. You're another name on a long list of clients who never get to connect with anybody you want to work with. And good luck out there calling fill in the blank bank, right? And good luck. Hope it all works out for you. No, but it's like we want to be the difference in your career and in your life, but there is a real consequence. When you have that need in the last minute, in the middle of the night, are you going to call that bank down the street and get a result? Someone you know going to pick up the phone up and say, all right, Kevin, yep, I'm here for you and Leah and Arden. What can I do for you? So that's why selling consequences and communicating that clearly matters. So we've covered a lot really quick, but I want to give you the framework in order of like questions, all right? So we want to ask ourselves, what do customers want? What do customers want? All right? When we get to the problem, we want to say, what are the customer's internal, external, and philosophical problems? Right? For some situations, it is much more a matter of belief than it is something as simple as, something on the outside. But we do want to recognize that every external problem has an internal problem. All right? So the external problem is like a symptom. Okay, this is what I'm feeling every day that bothers me. But most times, we've all learned quickly, it's something internal, right? Hey, am I good enough? Those are the questions that people are really asking. Can I get that raise? Will I get a promotion? Things that have nothing to do with your product, but have a nice cascading effect. It's our job to get in the minds of our customers. Next thing, have we positioned our brand as the guide to the hero? And have we created a clear plan for how they win? All right, and our last couple questions. Are our calls to action clear? Does someone know how to do business with us? And if you just address that one first and say, you know what, before we fix everything else, no one will ask how they work with us ever again. Many of you will see an uptick in business immediately because someone came to your site, wanted to work with you, saw you on social media, and had no idea how to get from social media to customer. It was just, oh, this is cool. They're fun. They're great. All right. Last two questions. Have we helped our hero imagine how we can improve their lives? And then lastly, have we identified the consequences we are helping them avoid? Have we clearly identified the consequences we are helping them avoid? Now, to do all this, everyone in this room and those who are watching, you need to create what we call a brand script. So I'm going to show you a quick example of this. And you can actually do this. I'll show you how to do this actually in one of my resources at the end. So if you hang tight, I'll promise to help you do it for free. But this is it. We're going to actually map these pieces out because we're going to start to measure all of our communications, every email, every social media post, all of our website copy is going to be measured against, does this tell the story accurately? Does this tell the story accurately? And are we setting our customers up to understand this story as we understand it? So I'm going to give you a quick example. Obviously, as you know, the average client doesn't love for you to put their terrible website up on presentations for everyone across the country to watch. So here's an example I am allowed to show you. All right, so this is a company called Equify. All right, we strengthen your business. Equify Asset Services, realizing confidence in your assets. Our next auction will be held in Cisco, Texas. Oh, my Computer just swapped out. Oh, sorry. Whoop. Let me go back. I don't know how I did that, guys. Sorry about that. Let me fix this. So build your business with Equify. Our job is to develop mutually beneficial partnerships because your job is tough enough. Once again, these are all nice, comfortable language. I wouldn't say anything's quote unquote bad about it. Just I would ask you, do you know, have they identified what you want? Have they identified what your problem is? Do you know how they help you solve it? And I think most of us will say no. I don't know what they do yet. I trust that there's something to do with construction because I can see an image there, and there's a, but like I don't really have much of it until we start getting down here. But now you've lost me, right? There, if I can figure it up here, you're called above the fold on newspapers, or some people call it the grunt test, right? If I can't grunt like a caveman and understand what you're doing, you sell food kind of thing, right? Then I can put it together. So after they went through the story brand process, this is what happened. All right. So 5 ways we make your company stronger: specialized commercial lending, commercial real estate lending, commercial insurance services, heavy equipment auctions, appraisal services. Now you can say, Kevin, I've seen prettier websites before. My question is, does the person they're trying to sell to understand how they help them? Right? And I think that a big part of it in today's world, you can get a really beautiful website really easily. Squarespace lets you pay $18 a month. Your website templates will be fantastic. You'll look like a professional designer did it for you. But if no one understands the words on the website and how it applies to them, it's still a lost opportunity. And so someone says, hey, Kevin, what if I do Facebook ads? Facebook ads to a website that's confusing is wasted money. So what we want to do in this context is says, well, Equify works closely with business owners. Oh, now we know who we are, to greatly improve their cash flow standing. Wow, that's very clear. Protect them from risk while maximizing their value and creating peace of mind. The person on this site wants peace of mind. I want to know what we're doing, our business, our assets are taken care of, so our business is not at jeopardy. And that's what matters. And if you want to act quickly, you can call now, which is very clear, or you can check out our next auction, which is coming up in October. And so it could be this simple. Now I can show you tons of examples of people who are doing it and doing it well, but I think I want to do this one because you can clearly see that it doesn't mean bad. It just means confusing. They were professional before. It wasn't unprofessional. It wasn't clear. So let me keep going here. All right, so let's talk about some next steps. All right, I want to be very clear. It's my job to give you a plan. Right, I'm a guide in this moment. You are the hero, and I want to own that in this moment. All right, so step 1, you can actually text the word messaging to 31996. I've actually created a messaging makeover kit. It's completely free, and it will empower you to do all of this by yourself. I actually made sure in there's 2 plan options, and one clearly says if you want to do it yourself, you can do it yourself. So just text the word messaging to 31996. All right, and you will have the opportunity to do this work by yourself. I introduce you to all the tools. I give you book recommendations. I send you to free online courses. You can literally do this on your own. And then I even include how you can schedule a free brand script consultation with me. So after you start to write yours out, you say, okay, is this right? I don't know what I did here. I will happily sit on the phone with you for 30 minutes and just look over it and give you some quick pointers so you can go out and continue to do it on your own. One thing I know about the team at Pinnacle is their generosity, and I want to come alongside to mirror that with you and make sure you know that I'm happy to help you in the capacity you want to be helped. And so you can do all that for $0 and kind of get that going. Now, you can also book a strategy session with me. We actually would jump in and spend 2 days to do this work for you and with you to expedite the opportunity for it to get done. We understand that the reality of small business is low on time just as much as money at times. And so there are moments where it's like, hey, I should get this done and move along so we can get back to work. And we help people do that as well. And the last thing I want you to do from there is I want you to actually start the process of activating that message. Activate that message. Make sure all the touch points check the boxes. Now, for some of you, that might be as simple as our email signature. We do a lot of outgoing email with people all over the country. We should probably just update our email signature to have a one-liner that communicates clearly what we do. And here's why. We want to give people something they can say when we're not around. One of the things we talk about a lot with elevator pitches is this idea of minimum words and maximum results, right? And that's our goal. How short can we communicate the value of what we do? Because a great product with bad communication is going to be stalled because I can't get through it. And for your sales team in particular, if you have one right now, if you're the primary sales rep, just working through that on your own is valuable because your communication might be the graveyard for most of your deals. You're on the phone, you're talking, and you lost them, and I want to make sure that doesn't happen to you. So, if I can leave you anything, it's the idea that if you confuse, you will lose. People buy products they understand, not products that solve their problems the best. And I think we can see that very clearly. There's some franchise restaurant that's a chain down the street. The food's not as good. We know that, and we're going to show up because we understand what type of restaurant it is. It has clearly owned a space in our brains, and we're going to say, when I want this type of food, where am I going to go? People have communicated to me clearly over time, and I know what I'm going to get when I show up. And so I want you to overcome this, and you can. So with that, I'll stop, open up for a Q&A with Brian, and thank you all for letting me hang out with you guys.
Thanks, Kevin. So the way we'll handle Q&A is we'll let people here in our live audience ask Kevin questions. And then if in your host areas, if you all will just email me the name and the location, then we'll line you up in a queue and we'll unmute you, or actually let you unmute yourselves and ask Kevin a question so that we can get everybody together and it's seamless and it works well. So does anybody here in our live audience have a question for Kevin? If not, then, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll give you the mic.
Okay, so the question was, how do you manage confusion and mitigate that if you have three different businesses all doing three different things? What I would first recommend from a marketing perspective is changing where and how you communicate about them. So not even just the words, but like the destinations. So if are they all on one website right now? Okay, so good. So I also stay there. Three websites, and I will communicate each of the products or services individually. Now, the biggest challenge for you is probably going to be internally. So I don't know how large. Do you have a team around you? Or are you still doing everything solo? All right. So if you're also so that's probably your greatest challenge, right? Is that you are the products people in the market. Your name, sir? Clarence. Sorry. So hey, I know we all know Clarence. Clarence is a great guy, but he knows Clarence for one thing, the one product you gave him, and I know you for the product you gave me, and Brian knows the product you gave him. And so for you, that's probably your biggest challenge is a personal branding challenge because you are the product, and we will say, well, how do I know when to call Clarence? And so for you, that might mean you might need to have, or if you can, pay even a virtual assistant to pick up the phone for one of the other businesses and handle those initial calls. And because you're trying to say, hey, how can I make sure I don't confuse everybody who knows me? And how do I make sure the messaging is clear? So are the businesses connected at all in any type of way other than you run them? Same industry, same customer base, anything similar at all? Yeah, are these services or actual physical products? Okay. Yeah, so I think in your context, it's going to be, let me make sure my websites are really, really clear. as much as I can, because I have to try to overcome any confusion that I'm creating just by being so active as an entrepreneur. And then to the extent that you can actually say, okay, there's someone out there I'm going to put in a position to accelerate the growth of one of those individual lines and be a face, even if it's a commission-only salesperson. If I can be transparent, like, hey, I have one sales rep for this person, one sales rep, one sales rep. Those individuals can start to build networks that help you separate that in the market, especially locally. So you're in a unique spot. In the future, it may not be as challenging as you grow them. I'm assuming they're all doing well. So we're not talking about the focus of one versus the other, but messaging-wise, that's probably what you're feeling is everybody knows you for different things. Virtual assistant. Yep, I'm sorry. There's a lot of belaysolutions.com for virtual. BELAY solutions.com. And then there's another one that's a little bit less expensive. They're called VAVA Virtual, VAVA virtual.com. And the cheapest one, if you're like, I really can't afford much at all, a couple $100 max, there's a company called Virtual Staff Finder. They connect you with English-speaking people in the Philippines. Full-time employees is $650 a month because of the exchange rate in the Philippines. So if you want the Philippines, virtualstafffinder.com. Yes, sir. Sure. Greenville, South Carolina. A question about search engine optimization. Okay, unmute and we will happily listen to your question. We'll hang tight for you. Okay, fire it away. How much emphasis should we put on search engine optimization? Well, the best part about this process is it has a baked-in SEO side effect. Because the clearer you communicate what you do, the more Google indexes the words on your pages. So Google does not index, can you hear me okay? Google does not index images. You put the text behind images, and that's how they come up in Google searches. So when Equifax started putting commercial lending versus we help your business and make you feel wonderful and give you peace, I don't know. That won't show up. So sometimes just being clear on your words on your website is a big part of how Google starts to do that. I have one of my clients, and they are incredible with SEO, and a lot of it has to do with clarity. We didn't do anything super special. We didn't hire any specialist. We get started. We just literally said, let's speak in the language of the customers. And that's one thing I talk about in the messaging makeover kit I offered. So if you text messaging to 31996, you'll get that, is interviewing our customers to ask them how they describe us when we're not around. Find your favorite customers, your top three, the ones you like. You love them. The rapport is great. They pay well. They're a profitable client. And you say, what do you tell me about what we do? They say, well, I tell them you do this. Well, great. Let me say that on the website. Let me say the things that are already working in word of mouth, the words that are connecting with other customers like you, because we have what Donald Miller calls the curse of knowledge. You have a PhD level of knowledge on your own business. Everyone else is operating at a third grade level. And so you're coming in you're talking all this language and you're losing everybody. And so SEO has a side effect with that. I would say the other thing is if you are doing any kind of online content like a blog, your first 50 blog posts need to just be answers to the 50 most frequently asked questions. Question number one, it might be about your product, it might be about your competitors, it might be about how it works. Just answer every single question you always get in its own blog post, because that alone is going to help with SEO, because Google and YouTube are searched most often with questions, and that's going to help a lot with SEO as well. Hey, Becca in South Park. Go for it. I'm sorry, if you're talking, you need to unmute real fast, and then I will happily hear you out. All right, if you don't mind sending your question to Brian, I will happily get to that one for you. Yes, sir, in front of me. No, but well, for example, so let's. I had a former client of mine. They did. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He asked a question about if tiling images matters in Google searches. Should I just put my service as the name behind most of my pictures and my images? And what I was going to say is not necessarily. So the title of the file doesn't matter. It's something called alt text, just to be real technical. ALT text in the bottom, and you can actually change. I don't know what you're using for your site, but there's a way to actually put and tell Google what kind of image it is, or like a description of the image. So just look, you can look up in your service how to insert alt text. And what happens is you might describe it as, for example, um, Pinnacles 2019 golf fundraiser for such and such foundation. You know, produced by Clubhouse Events. Right? You're trying to actually put a whole description of the image, more like a so not a caption, but it's a description of what the image actually is. Um, successful fundraisers, successful golf fundraiser for that kind of information is actually more helpful when you're searching for that kind of stuff because a Pinnacle fundraiser search could also make your image come up. So just as an example. Okay, the question from Memphis. Do you know who asked the question? Okay. Well, question from Memphis was how do we translate the messaging from our website to print materials without being verbatim? The key thing I would say is the context in which the material is going to be used. So if it's a leave behind after a sales presentation, if it's going to be done as if it's going to be printed in the mail and just shipped in cold, it's going to need to be rearranged accordingly. So that's one thing I would say. The second thing is, and you might say, well, what does that mean, Kevin? I would lead off differently with my messaging. Because on a postcard that I got in the mail with the rest of my other, promotional mail, I probably am only going to give it 2 seconds before I say, oh, this is not relevant, or it's not for me, or it's not for me directly. So that one's a bit more challenging because you only have a short period of time to really capture the attention. But I think the key thing is what's going to happen. So, for example, on a leave behind piece of material, I am not as focused on just trying to establish what they want and the pain. I'm going to spend a little bit more time talking about authority and how and really why we're qualified as a guide. I'm still going to let it flow in the story format. I'm not going to start with work with us, the number one company in the world. That's not the headline. The headline is still your pain. It's still how we solve it, right? And by the way, it can be very, very clear cut. I wish I knew what the business was because I would speak more directly to that question. But I would just say at the end of the day, you still have to follow the story type. And a big part of that is make sure it's readable, right? So we're talking about clarity. So small print wouldn't work just for context. So I'm assuming the design pieces are intact. If your homepage copy is really great, I'm not going to say you can't use a lot of it, but you want to expand it. So in a great sales letter or a great piece of print material, you might address objections directly. Hey, you might by now be wondering, is this affordable? Is this worth it? What if you can address objections directly and kind of expand that? You might include a testimonial. When I worked with, Clubhouse Events, they did this and this. I would just call it out and put some testimonials. I'd put a picture. One thing that's often overlooked on websites and print materials is the power of a friendly face that's not your team. Now, I'm not talking about a stock photo. I'm saying a friendly face that actually represents your customer. Here's why. Okay, great. Okay, Sasha, thank you for sending that back over to Brian. All right, I love this. So in this context, you're trying to really put a mother at ease, and so you have probably a lot more to overcome than even most people. You might talk about you might have a section that says, do prenatal massages really work? It's a subheading, and you kind of address all the objections. Some women are worried about their safety and safety of the child, and then you put a little line explaining why it's great for them and how it actually is safe. They might say, is it covered by my health insurance? Is it expensive? I mean, I'm making these up clearly, but you can actually put a little section on that and address it directly. You might also have you might actually still put we've served over 10,000 women, like fill in the blank. And then you put a couple testimonials there with faces of real customers you served. P.S. For all of you, most customers are happy with testimonials. They don't want to give you their time. So there is no shame in saying, hey, remember last time you talked? You told me we did this thing for you really well. I wrote up a sentence as if it was you. How about this? Would you mind writing a testimonial for me? If not, I gave you a sentence. You can just look at it, review it, thumbs up, and I'll print it. Customers actually want to be easy to help you. So we say, hey, will you give me a testimonial and give me time and think about it? And they're like, I don't know. I mean, I like you a lot and you're fun to work with. You're like, that's not, I was looking more for, well, just tell them, hey, you brought this up in our experience. It's really valuable. I wrote a blurb about it. I wrote down what you said in our conversation. Can I print that? And they're like, sure. It's very, very rare that you're going to get pushback in those contexts, but you need to make it a little bit easier to jump in and help. Hope that's helpful, Sasha. Yeah. Okay. So Becca, I love these stories because I love talking about anything that's high end because it leads me to a really powerful story about branding in general. Um, when a massage therapist, Becca massage therapist. Okay. All right. Thank you, Becca. Um, when people are undercutting you with pricing, you kind of gotta let them go. So I think that actually starts to serve you well because you need to lean all the way in to your higher price point. Because if you get too close to it, there've only been a few brands I can think about in my mind that are really good at doing mid tier, like Target. We know Walmart and Target sell the same exact things, and they sell it for more money, and we still go to Target. Like I don't like they've done a really great job. Like we're the middle, and they own it really well. But for those other ones, it's like no, lean all the way on the luxury side. And what you're going to do in your conversations is you're going to start to say, okay, well, this is how what do they desire? This might mean you have a new customer base. So the person who wants to pay their prices is not your customer. So let me liberate you first. That's not your customer anymore. That person who wants to spend the, $50 and you want to charge 125, 150, that's not the person paying 50 is not your customer. And so don't I know that might have been your customer in the past, but it's not anymore. So what you're going to need to do is say, this person aspires for experience. This person aspires to treat themselves like they're worthy of something. This plays into an identity about who they are, and that happens a little bit in the brand script development process as well. And that is, what is their desired identity? It is to do what? To be successful, to be fulfilled. It might be. It's going to be healthy. Those kind of things are going to be spoken about when you talk about their desires and then their problem. The problem is there are so many low-cost providers out there that you don't know who is actually going to provide the quality you're seeking. That's an additional problem, additional barrier. The problem is you don't know who's reputable. So I think you need to actually call those things out. So instead of saying they're not as good as me, you just paint them in the picture of they're a problem. They're another problem for the customer to solve, and you know that. The other thing is most customers actually associate price with quality. My entrepreneurship professor helped me a lot when I got out of college and said, if you want to really do well, Kevin, double your prices. Just double them now. Just double them. Just do it. And I was like, well, no, I won't have any customers. but I had to double the prices because without it, I attracted a clientele that just didn't work, and it always backfired on me. And so I think people who want nice things and can afford your prices are only going to respect you when the price is higher. And so I think it's a big part of it. Um, and then the last thing I would say, this is more a little bit separate from story brand and the script here, but I think it's important for you to also say to yourself, what story am I making true for them? So we're talking about that whole transformation piece. So, for example, with the massage, if I went from stressed and overwhelmed and feeling neglected to feeling cared for and healthy, what can I do to make that experience become more and more true with time? Maybe when you come in, there's water already. Maybe there's a specialized cup with their name on it. I mean, I'm making all these things up, but you have to back it up with some experience because these individuals are paying for something that you can create for them, but you have to lean to luxury pricing. So I took like Tesla, for example. I'll be quiet this, Brian. So Tesla, they charge tens of thousands of dollars more than other luxury cars. And you say to yourself, how do they do that? Why? Why would I, if I can afford a BMW, why would I get a Tesla? If I can afford, why? Because they want you to tell a story about yourself. And that story is, I care about luxury as much as I care about the environment. And I want everybody to know I'm one of those rich people who's willing to pay a premium by $20,000 or so to make sure I leave the earth better than I found it. Yeah, I love luxury, sure. Yep, I love it. But I'll pay more to make sure I take care of the people around me. I'm a good rich person. Oh, okay, great, right? But here's the thing, whether the story's true or not, Tesla's doing everything they can to make that story true for that person. That person is the same person who buys probably, grass-fed beef and cage-free eggs, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Like, they're trying to sell you a story, and you have to say, and everyone's doing it. That's what people who are doing this well. They're already in on this. They already know that this is the framework that works. It's you have what. So what do they really want, Becca? It's not just a massage. They want something bigger than that, and you're playing a role in that story, and you're probably doing a great job of making it true. One more. Okay, go ahead, Clarence. Has someone already paid the new price? Roll with it. See, I get it. I mean, pricing is an art as much as it's science, right? Because you have competitors that are charging different things, and you have to go against those things. Um, but very, very, very few people do not want products that have aspirational identities associated with them. So, for example, even if I'm driving a Honda, I still want a Tesla one day, right? I mean, I don't want. I mean, even the person who has I mean, let's say a Nissan. Well, I got a Nissan Leaf. Well, that's not the cheapest Nissan you could buy, right? So someone has an aspirational identity that they want. People who are giving you backlash for it. The more confident you are, and the more you then say, now, how do I make sure the price and the experience line up? That person is eventually going to pay the price or just won't enjoy it. But most of them will eventually just try to pay it anyway because the more everyone else wants it and they're not having it, and I'm not trying to play into insecurity, but it's just a reality that eventually I will want it because I had to wait to a spot in my life when I could afford it. And so, but I said, whether you go to Ruth Chris every night or not, if you're going to Logan Steakhouse, eventually, you want to hang out at Ruth Chris because of what they've done to position themselves as a premium provider for steak. And you know what it means. It's no longer just good food because there's always cheaper food that will provide sustenance. It's, I could afford Ruth Chris. I can afford this meal. This is a sign of my own success. And Ruth Chris knows that. They know that when you show Rich Carlson, same thing. They know what they're doing. They're creating something that makes you feel hello, sir, when you walk in, right? You can get that Holiday Inn. They're not saying hello, sir, when you walk in the door, right? They might not even acknowledge you. So I think it's a part of the process. Backlash is actually a positive thing in most branding and marketing. If people do not care about you at all, that's actually the challenge. Obscurity is more painful than negative feedback. Does anyone even know you exist? That's actually way more important in today's world because there's so many options out there. It's really hard to even stand out. So take the backlash, keep charging your prices, especially people who are already paying it. If they weren't paying it, that'd be a different conversation. But I think you're good to go, Clarence. Roll with it.
All right, so that will wrap it up for today. Thank you all for participating, either live here or in our satellite locations. Kevin's kind enough; he sent us the slides, so we've recorded this. We're gonna send the whole session out. We'll make it available so that you can go and access it and rewatch this and participate more. And if you need to get in touch with Kevin, he lets you have the text information, but also his email address, and all of his information will be available for you to reach out to him as well. So hopefully you're walking away today with some things you can apply in your business. And we'd love for you to join us for another workshop that we're doing at the end of August. We'll have Ken Coleman. Ken works with Dave Ramsey. He's recently written a book called The Proximity Principle that helps you make relationships that will help you further your business. So he'll be here at the end of August to kind of share some of his tips and tricks for how to connect with the right people and advance your business. So we're thankful you're here today. Hopefully you're walking away with something that'll help you, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thanks to everybody.